Okay, this is Block 8, Pax Americana, Section 3, Problems in Asia, with the section The Chinese Civil War. If you remember back from Block 7, China had been a bit of a mess for a long time, over 100 years, by the mid-20th century, and there was two rivals for power in China before World War II. On the left, you see the communist leader Mao Zedong. The communists were under Mao Zedong and had their strength, in the northern part of the country, more or less. His opponent down the bottom right was the nationalist Chiang Kai-shek. And Mao and Chiang fought a civil war in China before the Japanese invaded in the 1930s. When the Japanese invaded in the 1930s, the two of them agreed to kind of put their differences aside and help get rid of the Japanese, which they did. Chiang operating more in the south and Mao operating more in the north. But after World War II was over, after the Japanese had been forced out of China, the Civil War resumed with much ferocity. The United States strongly supported Chiang with money, as they had been doing throughout the Second World War. But although Chiang himself was not corrupt, his top officials, his aides, his generals were. Mao, the communist, had the support of the mass of the peasantry in China. Whenever they suffered defeats militarily, they could just go back to the interior of the country, regroup, rearm, resupply. And by 1948, 1949, Chiang's forces had been exhausted, and his soldiers kind of saw the writing on the wall and realized that Mao was going to win. And Mao swept through northern China and then southern China and forced Chiang to flee with what was left of his army. In the United States, the fall of China to the communists was considered to be catastrophic. That all of a sudden, 1/4 of the world's entire population was now under communist control, and they thought, that Moscow, that the Russians gained this huge advantage. Now, in reality, even though China and Russia were both communist countries, they did not particularly like or trust each other, although they worked together on some occasions. But it was one of those things that Republicans used to attack Truman, that Truman had lost China. It was not a very accurate description. It was good politics, but it wasn't particularly accurate. That no American president had the power over life and death in China, and Mao and the communists won China because they were stronger, more popular than Chiang Kai-shek and the nationalists. So what did Chiang do? He took his remaining loyal troops and he fled to the island of Formosa, which is right here, which came to be known as Taiwan. The Chinese, although militarily powerful, did not have a strong enough navy to cross the Straits of Taiwan right there, and the Americans promised Chiang protection in Taiwan. So the United States protected Chiang in Taiwan, and the nation of Taiwan was born as separate from mainland China. This here today is called the People's Republic of China. It is a communist country. It is not a free country. Taiwan, on the other hand, was always a capitalist anti-communist country, and it did become a free country in the 1970s and 1980s. We still retain strong relations with Taiwan, and we have a defense. It's assumed that if China were to attack Taiwan, the United States would support the Taiwanese in their fight against mainland China. But right now what you kind of have is two Chinas. A Communist People's Republic of China, which is officially recognized by the United States, and a Republic of China, Little Taiwan, which is unofficially recognized by the United States. And those two Chinas are a legacy of the Chinese Civil War, a very important Cold War fact, that China, mainland China, the People's Republic of China, became a communist nation, and there was going to be much bloodshed to come. Mao Zedong is one of history's monstrous tyrants, on the same level as Hitler and Stalin. Tens of millions of people dying in famines under his rule. And if you study kind of world history, and especially Chinese history, you get a good sense of what kind of sicko monster Mao Zedong was as well. But he won, and China became communist in 1949.